All right, let's go up to Alberta. The Calgary Flames last year, they had 93 points, fifth in the Pacific, 16th overall in the league. Last time in the playoffs, 2022, they lost to Edmonton in the second round. They haven't gotten past the second round since 2004 when they went to the Cup final, lost to Tampa. The odds this year are 30-1. They have a new coach, Ryan Huska. He was the assistant for a long time. They brought in Igor Sharangovich in the Tyler Toffoli trade. Defenseman Jordan Ostley. Like I said, they lost Toffoli, Milan Lucic, Trevor Lewis, Michael Stone, Nick Ritchie gone. They're over the cap right now. I know the season hasn't started yet. They could get underneath it. It's $213,000 they're over right now. It was a bumpy ride for Cowtown last year. It seemed like, I don't know if the Sutter stuff overshadowed everything. Biz, I know it feels like they're underneath his thumb now. They could maybe, I don't know, breathe a little bit because he put Huberdeau on the off wing, and it just seemed like a clusterfuck of a year for that team last year.
Well, I mean, fucking the Oilers going back to the year previous just ended them. They had the 1-0 series lead, and then all of a sudden Edmonton turned it on. They got playing like a bunch of idiots, opened things up. And the Sutter experiment was not very good last year. I think that the morale was extremely low. Let's not forget about the key losses, right? They lost Johnny Gaudreau, and then they lost Tkachuk. Not sure how much that had to do with Daryl being at the reins, but I think that the negativity spread a little bit too much, especially with Huberdeau early on. That threw him off his game. I thought they were going to fucking win the division again, right? Because of the ads, losing those guys, they ended up adding, who'd they pick up? They picked up Hubie, they picked up Uyghur, and then they got Kadri. So I thought that they were going to be all right, but the offense just was never there. Only 55 points from Huberdeau after he'd had 100 the year previous. Probably the biggest issue was goaltending. And I think that Daryl was in Markstrom's head a little bit. Same with Vladar, who, when he took over, Vladar was solid at the start, but then it just became a carousel where they couldn't get the big saves. But let's not forget, and I think I mentioned this when we were talking to Juice, most one-goal losses since 2010, 2011, that was the Florida Panthers. They had 31 goal losses. So I think with now a little bit happier environment, Huberdeau getting his game back, power play probably getting some help with Savard coming there as an assistant and him sprinkling his magic in there. I actually think that these guys make the playoffs this year. The biggest question mark right now is, can they lock in Lindholm? Right? They lost. I don't know. They're going to have to offer him quite a bit of money. He's got all the leverage right now, because if they lose him as a first-line center, they're really going to be toast, because you can't go find guys to replace him. We talked about it. You can't build through free agency. You got to lock this guy in and keep him around. So they actually got a lot of guys they got to sign, because they got a lot of pending UFAs. Other than Lindholm, they have Backlund, Hanifin, Killington, Tanev, and Zadorov. So not sure what they're going to be able to do this season, but I'm confident that they can get back to the winning ways, and they're going to be okay.
Bounce back.
Yep.
And I hate saying it. I'm an Oilers guy, and the Oilers are so fucking good. It's actually scary. But the Calgary Flames are going to be a good team this year. I think that getting away from Sutter and the negativity, as Biz put it, the showing up to the rink and just kind of walking on eggshells and knowing that he's disappointed in everyone, it just can weigh you down. And I think Markstrom's going to have a bounce back year. I think Huberdeau is going to be awesome. I actually think with that new head coach, who definitely deserves this chance, I think they're going to be a really good team. And like, Huberdeau went in there, he's playing out of position. He had to deal with the expectations of losing Tkachuk and Gaudreau. There was just so much madness that all kind of rolled together into just a shit season. And like, that can happen, but you look at what's there, and I think that there's a lot there to win a bunch of games. I have them making playoffs too, no doubt. But I also think that the bounce back is going to be the biggest part. And mainly for me, it's with Markstrom. And also the fact that Vladar can be a really good goalie. If he does struggle, one of those goalies is going to be good. I mean, you look at their third line could consist of Backlund, Blake Coleman, and Mangiapane, right? Like, if that's your third line, that looks great. Super excited to see Coronado, who was a first rounder a couple years ago. He played at Harvard. A ton of skill. He'll have the ability and the chance, I think, to play on one of the top two lines. Pasha's boy from New Jersey, Sharon Govich, comes over. He had 25 goals 2 years ago. And then last year, I think kind of lost his spot, maybe with the Devils getting a little bit more depth, but a crazy release. He's got an unreal shot. So all of a sudden, if he's playing with Huberdeau and Lindholm, he's got a real chance to produce those goals that he did a couple years ago. I just like their team. And like Biz said, going into last year, I thought they'd have a great team and everything snowballed from the get-go. But I think with a new coach in there and Markstrom having a bounce back year, I've mentioned I played with him, very proud guy, will be really expecting a lot from himself. And I think he's got a lot to prove. And because of that, he's probably so focused. He's a dad now and he's probably ready to go, I think. And I just like their team. I don't think that they're going to compete for the Stanley Cup, but I think they're going to be in the playoffs. And I mean, obviously, you want to see that new arena get built at some point. That arena's a little worn down, and they have to deal with the Oilers, who just own them. But I do like their team, and I'm kind of excited to see Huberdeau and what he can accomplish, because that's another proud guy coming off one of the worst years he's had in the league. You know, he's looking at his contract and him stepping in.
Another
and
issue too is as much as he struggled, he wasn't really getting a lot of opportunity. Like most nights, you looked at the score sheet and he was playing 15 minutes. Now, maybe Darryl wasn't happy with how he was playing on the defensive side of the puck. Maybe he just didn't like his style of play. But like I said, with 20 minutes of ice time and him getting another 20 points, I think they find themselves within a playoff spot. Now, the only other thing, we talked about Vladar and Markey, like, it's a crowded crease, man. They have this Wolf kid that's coming up too. Mm-hmm. And he got a few games at the end of the year. And if I'm not mistaken, he won goalie of the year last year in the American Hockey League and maybe even the year previous. So if they're not getting that goaltending from those two guys off the start, you see Wolf getting called up and taking over the crease. So they got a crowded crease in Calgary. So it should be interesting to see how things play out.
Also on D, and now granted, question marks around Hannafin in terms of wanting to be traded and maybe he doesn't want to resign there. Who knows how that plays out? I think at a press conference around the Flames golf, the annual golf thing before camp, he mentioned he just wants to see how the season goes. If they get off to a good start, he wants to be on a winning team. So things like that can change. A guy may not want to sign somewhere. All of a sudden they have a great year and his tune changes a little bit. But if you look at their D, they got a lot better six guys than a lot of teams in the league.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at like Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, Chris Tanev, Oliver Shillington, and Nikita Zadorov, there's a lot worse decors out there, right? Yeah. So it's a team that I think, because of what happened and finally having the excuse in quotations of Darryl and how he's wearing on everyone, if he's being gone, they got no excuses anymore, and I'm expecting big things from the Flames.
Merles, what do you got for us, buddy?
I'm the opposite of these two guys. I think they've lost too much. Toffoli left. He was their top scorer. He's gone. I have them not making the playoffs. And the only way they do it is what you guys talked about. If Markstrom, if he has the Vezina year, if he wins the Vezina, they'll make the playoffs. But all these guys, they don't want to sign there. They're not committing to it. Like, you can't be on a team like that with guys that aren't committed to be there and like want to win with each other.
What do you mean? They're all
fucking
fucking playing for contracts. That's exactly where you want them.
Yeah, but they don't want to be in Calgary. Like they're just not committed to that. I just don't buy them at all. The division is way too strong. You look at Edmonton, Vegas, LA, the top, they're not better than those three teams. So I'm going to have them not making the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's pretty easy to say, probably more than any other division, of the three teams that we all have winning the Pacific or getting the spots, the auto spots in LA, Vegas, and Edmonton. But it's not going to be that easy for the entire division because there's so many deep teams. So I just think if Calgary has goaltending, then they'll be right there.
I got five teams in the Pacific making playoffs, and I got Calgary edging out Vancouver. So I think that they are going to make playoffs, and they're going to slide into
Seattle. You're going to have Seattle in?
Yep.
G, where you at, buddy? What do you have on Calgary? What are you thinking?
I actually don't think they make the playoffs. I think Flames fans should head into the year thinking one thing, and that's sell at the trade deadline. Like Biz said,
they just signed Huberdeau and Weegar. Like, what do you mean?
But Backlund, Lindholm, Doobie, Hannafin, Tanev, these are guys that have already expressed that they don't want to re-sign in Calgary. So you might as well get something for them now, because in a year from now, their hand's going to be on their dick. They're going to have nothing to show from it. So I think they sell. I think they get off to a slow start, and by Thanksgiving they start dealing these guys off.
I agree with you in a sense. If they're not in a healthy position come trade deadline, you got to sell and prepare for the future. You have some decent pieces and unload, worry about the future. So there's a lot of question marks heading into this season, and Calgary's probably one of those teams where it's just like it's so up in the air. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, Uyghur and Anderson, the only defensemen signed beyond next season, and they're kind of coming to a crossroads with these contracts and guys up and whatever. But I think the new voice in there with Husker, he's got to know this team well. He was in the AHL team for 4 years, an assistant for the last couple. And if Markstrom, I agree with you, if Markstrom gets that form back, I think they're back in the playoffs because there's a lot of good parts there. And like you just said, Biz, all of these guys are playing for contracts too. So